Thanks for joining us. This is our extended interview with Kristin Tyler, the co-founder of Lawclerk and partner at Garman Turner Gordon. The first part of this video is from our GNGF Live that happens every other Wednesday. The second part here in this bonus extended interview, we dive into how outsourcing is going to affect the legal profession in 2020 and beyond. And then Kristin gives specific advice for you if you're looking to give outsourcing a try. And if you already saw the live, I'll put a timestamp to the exclusive extended interview below so you can just jump right ahead. Be sure to like and subscribe to follow along with our great conversations on legal marketing and the business side of running a law firm. And to watch this video on your platform of choice, you can find everywhere we stream at gngf.tv. Welcome to GNGF Live, your bi-weekly Ask the Experts about all things law firm marketing and business growth. I'm Mark Homer, author of Online Law Practice Strategies and founder of Get Noticed, Get Found. Today, we're talking with Kristin Tyler, the co-founder of Lawclerk and partner at Garman Turner Gordon. As always, be sure to like and subscribe to our page, not just the video, so you can get updated when our next episode goes live. And of course, we would love you to show your love and like the video too. We have moderators on the chat, so please ask questions and interact while we're live. And if you're watching this in the future after we're live, we do actually monitor comments on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and so we'll work to reach out to our guests and answer any follow-up questions you actually have. And that's because we love you, and we love getting to meet you in person. So come see us. Here's where we'll be next. It's a busy schedule, Joe. So first up, this Friday and Saturday, January 31st and February 1st, I'll be speaking and helping with hands-on workshops at Atlanta's Legal Tech Reboot Your Firm Summit. In fact, Kristin's going to be there too. On February 10th and 11th, I'm honored to be invited to Startup Grind in Silicon Valley as a judge for the U.S. National Competition for the Global Student Entrepreneur Awards. And on February 26th to 28th, Josh and I will be at the ABA Tech Show in Chicago. On March 16th to 18th, I'll be back in Atlanta helping lawyers redesign their practice from the ground up at Lawyerist LabCon. And March 25th through 27th, I'll be in Denver at the Legal Marketing Association's annual event. April 1st through 3rd, backed by popular demand, GNGF is proud to be joining 4 other great legal marketing agencies and to put on the Best Damn Legal Marketing Conference in Vegas, or Bedlam 2020. Joe, that was a great conference last year. We had great feedback on. We had to do another one. It's Bedlam 2020. Here we are. If you're interested, reach out to us. Joe, you can drop Josh's email in the chat, and we'll get a discount code for, I think it's like $200 off. So May 7th and 8th, we're on the road again. In New Orleans, we'll be speaking in an advanced digital marketing tactics breakout section at the Small Firm Bootcamp, and we can get a link to that one as well. That's just the next 4 months. And Joe, that doesn't even include the webinars and all the Facebook Lives we got going on. We got some awesome guests coming up for all these Facebook Lives lined up. If you aren't following our page, you may not have noticed, but we did start a new video series at the end of last year we call GNGF Tips. So check it out on our YouTube page. Joe, do you have a link to the latest video you can throw in the chat? Actually, throw the one with Chris. So I talk about if your law firm marketing is even working. It's a good video. And then Chris has one on voice search that was great. So definitely put the one in there in voice search. So check them out. We drop a new GNGF Tips video every other Friday. Okay, so today I want to introduce Kristin Tyler from Lawclerk. Kristin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mark. Happy to be here talking with you today.
So tell me a little about yourself, because you're also a law firm partner.
Yes.
So it's not just a law clerk, but you wear a couple of hats that I know. So tell me a little about yourself.
Wear a couple of hats, that's for sure. So my name is Kristin Tyler. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. By way of background, I've been a trust and estates, a probate lawyer for my entire career. And I'm a partner at a good medium-sized firm in Las Vegas. We have about 15 lawyers, and so it's a good size for out here. For some of the big city folks, it's not going to register, but in the West, it's a good size. And about 5 years ago, we left a larger regional firm, started our own firm, a boutique firm, and in that process, found a couple of pain points. We found that we missed having extra attorneys around during busy seasons, big cases, but we missed certain areas of expertise. And out of that, this little idea for a tech company came, and that company has now since been formally launched into the world. It's called Lawclerk, and we're now entering our 3rd year of business. So we're really excited. So I'm helping run the startup company, still helping estate clients on a limited basis, and just trying to do all the things, I guess.
Yeah, and things are going well, it seems. I did stop by when I was in Las Vegas last time, and you guys were getting ready to move into new office space and growing out, and so it's been fun to watch.
We're like a real company now, Mark. We have our own office and everything.
And so I met Kristin, about a year ago, I think, and it was, I think, about a few months right after I had a conversation with a lawyer who was a client of ours, who basically had told us, hey, can you slow down the marketing because we're getting too busy and we need to go hire some lawyers, and just can you pause the PPC campaigns? Can we, like they wanted to turn off SEO, which is kind of impossible, but they basically were too busy and having to hire people. I wish I had met you about 3 or 4 months earlier then, right?
Me too.
That is a perfect case study for like the type of person who could be taking advantage of a law clerk. So I was excited when we met, and I wanted to learn more, and so thank you for taking the time to sit down with us here on our Facebook Live.
Thank you. Yeah, I wish I would have been there too, because I'm sure the last thing you want to do is see all of your hard work and helping build that machine, build that marketing engine, generating new clients. You don't want to turn it off. That's the last thing you want to do. There's other options to deal with that kind of fast growth and how to scale the firm in a smart way. Yeah,
so let's talk about that. So for the benefit of the audience, can you walk through the whole concept behind Lawclerk?
Sure. So I like to joke that Lawclerk is basically Uber for busy lawyers, okay? It's the same kind of marketplace concept. So what we do is we help connect busy attorneys, primarily solos and small firms, with our nationwide network of freelance lawyers that they can hire on demand when they need help. That could be on an everyday basis. That could be once a week, once a month, once a quarter. But regardless of when you need the help, we're a very flexible way for you to connect with freelance lawyers, and they're very talented lawyers. We'll talk about that, to get that help when you need it.
Awesome. So that would have been a great example for our previous client, but there's other people, right? So people that maybe treating their law firm like a business, maybe a little bit more, or practicing law but want to practice a certain area but getting a lot of other cases and stuff. You taught me different examples. So how can a business-minded attorney use a service like Lawclerk?
Sure. I like to talk about a couple of our use case scenarios. So we can be a way for you to get help to scale up to eventually hiring someone full-time, like a more traditional actual person in the office associate, or we can be an alternative to be a long-term staffing resource. So, for example, one of our top users is this woman in a very small town in Wisconsin. She's a solo practitioner. From what she's told us, even if she wanted to hire a traditional associate, there aren't a lot of hiring candidates in her area. And she has a general practice. Some days she's dealing with family law issues, some days she's dealing with real estate issues, criminal, bankruptcy, litigation. And so she really needs to be able to connect with freelance lawyers that have experience and knowledge in each of those different areas, depending on the client and what she needs. So she's built up a very robust team of freelance lawyers through our service, that when she gets a new family law client, she taps someone on her family law team and says, hey, I need you to draft this property settlement agreement. And the next day, maybe she's going to have someone on her bankruptcy team getting to get some sort of a motion. And another day, she's going to someone on the real estate team to get a deed. But it is such a cool, flexible way for a lawyer like that to get the expertise they need when they need it. And really, there's no one associate you could hire that would have that breadth of experience and knowledge, especially out the gate, without you doing a lot of intensive training. And that's one of the really cool things about working with freelancers. That's
great. So, I can just imagine, and we've talked about this before, just all the different use cases, right? All the different types of ways you can use freelance lawyers as a law firm. But are there, certain law firms where law clerk's a better fit for?
Well, I wish there kind of was. We have clients, of course, a ton of our clients are solos. Most of our clients are in small firms of 9 or fewer lawyers.
Okay.
We have got a number of clients that have pretty solid medium-sized firms that are really excelling and using us with, especially helping manage discovery. But we also are working with a law firm, a national law firm that has 500 lawyers, to help staff them on a seasonal need where they don't want to hire an associate for the whole year and have to pay them the whole year when really they need them about 3 months of the year for one busy season in particular. So I'm going to take the answer and say it can fit into any law firm model regardless of your size.
Okay. How do you see people kind of typically getting started? What's their first usually connection with Lawclerk? Why does somebody kind of say, okay, I've hit this pain point, I need to pick up the phone and give Lawclerk a call? Sure.
So I'm thinking about the lawyers I met yesterday. I met a lawyer yesterday in San Francisco who's got a great associate who's going on maternity leave. And so she knows she's going to need help for a few months while that associate's out on leave because it's just the two of them. and she has immediate need in litigation. I met another attorney yesterday who had two associates that just quit and left him to open their own shop and compete. So they're fit as well. But really, I think it's someone who is knows they need help, but they don't know where to find it. They're maybe working more hours than they want to, but they don't want to pass on the work either. Like that's the other option is if you're stretched too thin, you've got too much work, like you were talking about with your client, you can pass on the work. You don't want to do that. And so if you are falling into any of those categories of wishing you had someone to help get work done, wishing you didn't have to do a certain type of work yourself, if there's just work that you're like, I've written 17,000 motions for summary judgment, I never want to do it again, that's a great thing for you to outsource. Have someone else get the draft teed up for you, ready to go, just save you hours and hours of work.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about the freelance lawyers, like what who are these freelance lawyers? And why are they doing freelance work? I've heard a lot of people kind of like, well, why would they do that if they could do it themselves?
Exactly, and that is kind of the stigma about freelance lawyers is they're lawyers that couldn't get a job at a firm for whatever reason, and so there's this stigma. But I can tell you that the reality of meeting hundreds of them, we have over 2,500 freelancers in our network now, is that a lot of them are very intentionally choosing a different career path. We have people that are taking time off from a full-time practice in a firm to help care for elderly parents, sick parents, or young kids. We have military spouses that the reality of military spouses is they get moved around about every 2 to 3 years, typically to rural areas where there's not a lot of great jobs. And they also have the licensing restrictions in a lot of states. Some states do have really open licensing rules for military spouse lawyers, but not all of them. And so that's another big category. We've got a lot of lawyers that are retired or semi-retired that like genuinely love the practice of law, like it's their biggest passion in life. But maybe now they're in their 60s and they don't want to run a full-time practice, but they want to come in and do some writing because they love to write. And we also have a lot of solos that will come in and freelance when their own caseload slows down, because as a lot of people know, the practice can kind of ebb and flow up and down. And so it's really interesting to us because we see some of our users that have both a freelancer account and a hiring attorney account. And we can tell where they're at in that cycle because it's like, oh, okay, he's on there this week. Like one of our guys was just on there and he posted help with some discovery. So obviously he must have got a big case and he's bogged down with discovery, wants some help. So he's hiring help this week. But in a few weeks from now, he could very well be applying to draft some motions for someone else if that slows down. So, people in a solo practice that are struggling to get some consistency in their business, this can be a way to supplement amidst the ebb and flow.
So I like that. So these are lawyers that are choosing, as you said, they're choosing to have this kind of freelance lifestyle for a whole host of reasons. And I think Mike, from I didn't even think about the military families. I mean, that's they're constantly moving around. So how do you put your roots down and put a shingle out and really build your law firm if you're moving every few years? But you went to law school, you've been practicing law. I mean, like you want to practice law. What a great platform you've built for people like that. I assume
we have
rural
the
attorneys.
big law. Yeah, we have the big law refugees. I call them big law refugees who maybe worked in big law for years, got tremendous experience and training, working with high-profile clients. Saw that they were not going to be making partner or burned out for other reasons, but they've got this tremendous wealth of knowledge and expertise. We have a lot of former big law lawyers that are coming in and, like I said, very intentionally now just doing freelance work. They don't want to manage a practice. They don't want to deal directly with clients, but they want to help support you with your other needs that that they can do in a limited freelance basis. So, they're definitely not baby lawyers. They're not people that can't get jobs. They're people that are very intentionally choosing a different path for their own legal career. And it's exciting to me as a lawyer that there's options out there to allow people to do that, like Lawclerk, that, yes, they could have been a freelance contract lawyer years ago, but it's hard to find work, regular work. And a platform like this that connects people nationwide is such a great resource to help match those people up.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is, you can be 30 years old, build up a law firm. Maybe you're pretty good at digital marketing. You're good at your networking and stuff. You've built, you got a nice practice starting to grow, but you have now access to somebody with 30 plus years experience. He's either retired or you said big law refugee or somebody in rural America. It may have super specialty knowledge that you don't have in only 7-8 years of practice, and you have access to this now. That's fascinating.
It is. It's so interesting. So I could tell you stories for days. Just tell me if you want more stories or less.
What kind of work? I mean, you talked about some things, but what are the typical work that a freelance lawyer is helping with? Or, I mean, it sounds like some of your examples were all over, but is there a kind of a 80-20 rule? Here's things that you typically see on the platform.
For sure. So our platform is meant to be all of the written work. Okay. So through Lawclerk, we're not helping at this point in time, at least, with any sort of appearance work. That is very locally governed by jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. So if you're a lawyer in New York, California, Florida, wherever, and you need help covering court appearances, there are services for that. That's not us right now. I just want to throw that out there because that's another great resource for people that are saying, hey, I'm too busy. I'm getting bogged down in court for days at a time. I need someone to do appearance work. Great, go find that resource. But for our platform, Lawclerk, we are meant to help with all of the written work. So think, of course, research memos. Mm-hmm. Think any sort of written document from a demand letter to a complaint, to a motion practice, to settlement agreements, to appellate briefs. We can do anything in between. Plus, of course, transactional documents, which we do see a good portion of our work is more transactional based, not litigation. And then, of course, if you go talk to a group of litigators and you ask them what their least favorite part of their job is, the vast majority of them are probably going to say discovery. And so we do see a lot of really smart lawyers finding ways to outsource some of that really time-consuming discovery work, whether it's document review and summaries, mm-hmm. Preparing requests or responses for discovery, et cetera, et cetera. And then we also have this kind of other fun category of work that goes through the site where we see attorneys that know they should be updating their blog on their law firm website, but they don't have time. And so they come in and hire some freelancers to write a group of blogs for them that they can update one every week or month or whatever they want to do to keep that SEO fresh. So that's another great resource if you've got your listeners out there that are keen into, they know what they should be doing for marketing, but they just don't have time to do a lot of the content writing themselves. We've got some pretty talented writers out there that can even chip in to help with that type of work. So any written work, Lawclerk.
And on the blog side, like these are lawyers who are able to write. So that's a lot of concern for people. It's like, well, I want to make sure it's a lawyer writing the blog content. So it's a great resource for that. I forgot you mentioned that before. That's awesome. Yeah. So what are some of the advantages though, like to hire freelance versus, let's say I'm starting to grow and I'm like, well, do I bring in another associate? Because there's got to be a trade-off there where I'm either hiring ahead and really hitting my pocketbook to hire an associate, or I'm so burnt out by the time I get to the point of affording them. But are there other advantages to hiring somebody, a freelancer through Lawclerk than just going after a couple associates?
Sure, and I hit on a few of these already, but I think some of the biggest advantages are the fact that a lot of times you can connect with someone who has years of experience that can jump right into the work without needing you to hold their hands and train them versus a newer associate. So that level of experience is just really cool. All too often what I hear from attorneys all over the country is when they hire an associate, traditional associate in the office, they invest in that person for a few years, train them, teach them the ropes. And all too often they end up leaving you after 2 or 3 years to either go work for a competitor for a couple more bucks or open their own shop and compete with you in that way. And then you just start the cycle over again. Find a new associate, train, et cetera, et cetera. With this model of working with a freelancer, you kind of cut out some of that headache. And also you cut out the overhead. You're not, especially if you're trying to build a virtual practice, if you want to work from a home office, this is a much more flexible way to add to your team and get that help without having to pay for office space and equipment and furniture and insurance for these folks. You cut out a lot of overhead. But you don't cut out the profit, which is great.
Yeah, it's great. It's definitely a good part. So back to that business-minded attorney, right?
Exactly.
So one quick question, from an ethics perspective, all the different states have all these different rules, right? Like you guys have dialed all that in. Like that's all fine and good.
It is. We've done a deep dive on that. And for anyone out there who wants to do a deep dive of your own, if you go to our website lawclerk.legal, scroll all the way to the footer, we have an ethics white paper there. It's a 50-state survey where we go state by state, plus we go through the ABA model rules to explain and prove why the model works in all 50 states and why you're ethically compliant. But the punchline is that you can work with a freelance lawyer as long as they work under your direct supervision. And the ethics rules do allow you to bill their time back to your client at a reasonable market rate. And that's the key test, is a reasonable market rate. So if you're practicing somewhere and your hourly rate that you bill clients at is $300 an hour, and you hire a freelancer with less experience than you're obviously going to be billing them to your client at significantly less than $300 an hour. So, it's kind of a common sense test. But if you stick to that reasonable market rate, you're good. And that white paper is available for download. Anybody who wants to do their own deep dive and learn more about that, go check it out.
Great. And Joe, we'll get that and put that in the chat if you can grab that from lawclerk.legal. Awesome. Okay, so we're running out of time for the Facebook Live episode here. But before I wrap up, I want to make sure, where can someone find you, online or connect with you online?
Absolutely. So, of course, the best place is our website, which is lawclerk.legal. Tons of resources on there. We have a pretty robust blog with a lot of helpful things. I also am just loving our YouTube page. If you go to youtube.com/lawclerk, we've got a ton of videos on there answering pretty much any question you could have. Of course, we're on all the big social media platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We even have a really fun Instagram page if you're big into Instagram. Our Instagram is @Shark on the Run. We have a cute little shark mascot. I should have brought one to have here today. But
I think you give me one somewhere and I don't have it either. So.
Right? Marketing fail here. But yeah, so our Shark on the Run Instagram is really fun. Check that out. And that's the best way. So.
Awesome. Okay, so we are about out of time, but I had 2 or 3 more questions here. Do you mind sticking around for a few minutes and we can post that on Friday or something?
Yeah, I can
awesome.
do that. But...
Okay, so we're out of time. I do want to, ask Kristin a few more questions. So if you want to tune in, I think Joe, we can get this posted out on maybe Friday, right? Okay, so we'll post this on Friday, and come back. I'm going to be asking things like, like how to actually specifically get started, and also how the freelance market is going to affect the legal profession in 2020. Kristin and her team being experts in this area, I'm really curious to see, kind of like what's on the horizon with this market. So we've got the way to contact you. We'll put that in the chat as well. I think you actually had given a code as well for somebody can get a discount on something. So I will put that in there. And let's see, I had some notes you had sent me. Which is GNGF 2020?
Yes, if they use sign up, post your first project, and when the project's completed, we'll send you out, what did I say on there? I'm going to make sure I say the right thing.
$50 Amazon gift card.
$50 to Amazon. So
after your first project.
Yeah, GNGF 2020. And that would be a special offer for your listeners. I know their time is valuable, and I appreciate them chiming in to listen to our conversation here.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. Be sure to like and subscribe our page so you'll get noticed. No, actually, not get noticed, get found. Get notified when our next episode goes live. And we're going to keep going here in the GNGF studios. And if you won't be with me at the Atlanta Legal Tech Reboot Your Firm Summit on Friday, then be sure to check out the extended interview with Kristin, which we will drop on Friday, where we dive into how outsourcing is going to affect the legal profession in 2020. And then Kristin gives specific advice if you want to give outsourcing a try. Thanks for sticking around, Kristin. Now that you're on the front lines of all this freelance world and the legal profession, tell me more about kind of where you see the freelance affecting the legal profession, in 2020 and beyond.
So a couple of things I think are interesting on that is, first and foremost, really, when you think about it, what we're doing is nothing new. Lawyers have hired what they call contract lawyers for decades. Mm-hmm. They typically go to someone in their community that maybe from time to time can help out with some extra work, and that's fine. The challenge with that has always been, well, what if they're not available? What if they really don't know how to do the kind of work you're doing? And so we're overcoming some of those challenges and making it easier for busy attorneys to connect with freelance lawyers who have the expertise they need when they need it. So in a lot of ways, what we're doing is not revolutionary. The website makes it easier. And also, I think that really a lot of times big law gets certain tools and advantages before small law does. When you look at big law, they've had different companies that are doing what we're doing, but catering towards the big firms for a long time. And I think it's time that some of those resources trickle down to small law, to solo small firms. That's our target market, is we are here for solo attorneys. We are here for the small firms. And if you're interested in some of the success that big law has had with outsourcing, there's a really great report put out by Altman Weil. It's Altman Weil, Weil. they do a report surveying a number of big law firms and trends they're seeing there. One of the trends they looked at was the use of contract lawyers and the success with that. And I don't know how much time we have, but I'll cut to the punchline in that the firms that were using contract lawyers to keep overhead low, they were seeing success in managing overhead, keeping it low, and being very pleased with the results and the quality of work they're getting from the outsourced freelance lawyers. So I think if it's something that big law is having success with, I am so glad that we can be a part of bringing that as a resource to solo attorneys and small firms. And I believe the trends are just that it's going to continue to grow as a very great business model alternative for attorneys looking for ways to do things better, smarter, better, faster, more efficient.
Yeah, and I look at it as essentially, Lawclerk is kind of reducing the friction on all that, right? So you always could do this, but how would I know in my town to go find, like the military spouses that are located, like up the way here at the Air Force Base, or like somebody who is an expert in this random rural, how to deal with cows as property or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But maybe there's somebody in Kansas who can do that, but there's not somebody here. Like that to me is, like the cool thing about Lawclerk is like reducing the friction for like anybody to kind of come on. I mean, we use Upwork for years, and that's a way to find, like graphic freelancers, developers, content and that stuff. So, but before that, it was hard, before tools like that, right? And so I'm very excited to see, how things go, as you guys keep helping the small, medium-sized law firms, because it's sad sometimes to see people who have such a big heart in trying to go out and help so many people struggle on the business side for things that, I really hope they wouldn't struggle with, whether that be marketing, some of the stuff we do, access to better talent, or, even like, some technology tools and stuff, right? So there's so much great stuff out there now for small solo lawyers that it'll be neat to see what happens over the next few years.
For sure. It's really exciting. Really exciting.
And then, so you did ask about, how much time we have. So we have all the time you need, because this is going to be extended on YouTube. So we're down to Facebook Live. But so in fact, this is one where maybe you could take the time you need, because if somebody is saying, hey, this is interesting to me, I'm wanting to figure out how to get started on, using Lawclerk or finding freelance lawyers and stuff to help my, small solo practice. Like, what are the tips you recommend? Like, how do I find this is the right thing to set aside, or, how do I get over the fact that, like if I don't do it, it's not perfect, or whatever, all these things that we go through when we first kind of outsource something.
Sure. So my advice in that regard is, first off, contact us. We would love to talk with you, help explore some of those concerns with you and the experience that we've seen with some of our other users. So we've got a great support team here at Lawclerk. Contact us through the email, the phone. We're happy to help you. But one of the biggest parts of succeeding with outsourcing is managing expectations. And that goes both to the freelancer and to the hiring attorney. So if you want to set yourself up for success, you have got to invest the time at the onset to give the freelancer the information they need to succeed. You need to manage their expectations about what they should be doing for you. So maybe that means spending a whole half an hour with them, outlining the issues and the points you think they should cover, whatnot. But you don't just dump some documents and some really basic instructions on them and expect them to read your mind, because that's not going to happen. Or unfortunately, we haven't done mind readers at our network yet. But so invest the time to give them all the information they need to do the best possible job for you. Now, when the job is completed and you get the document, maybe it's a motion or a brief, I always tell attorneys that if the freelancer gets that document about 80% of the way done for you, that's a home run. That's what you should expect. You should still expect to spend a good amount of time, of course, reading it for word, reviewing it, adding in additional facts that maybe only from the hours you've spent with the client, from the maybe months or years you've spent litiging the case. But if the freelancer can take a 10-hour piece of work, do that for you, get it 80% of the way done, that's going to save you an entire workday, if not more. That frees up your time to go to court, meet with new clients, work on your business. And that's what it's all about, is leveraging your time to the highest and best use of your time. Once you decide that you're at the point in your career that your highest and best use of your time is not drafting every single document yourself. And so managing expectations is really the key to success and hopefully getting you great results.
So there's a couple things there. So one is, you mentioned like, hey, you have to review this stuff, and you're going to have to continue working on it. Just based on some of the ethics stuff we talked about a few minutes ago, that's very key, right? I mean, like if you are responsible for this, like you are the responsible party for, making sure like you're using a contract resource or whatever. So like they're not on the hook. You are as the lawyer, right?
You're still signing the document. You're submitting it to the client or the court, whatever it may be. So you got to make sure you budget in enough time on the back end. So, I mean, if your actual deadline is, next Tuesday, maybe you want to have the freelancer give you the first draft or the final draft by Friday. So you have the whole weekend plus Monday to review it and finalize it. Manage your time so that you have sufficient time to meet those deadlines.
And that's on the backside. Then you mentioned on the front side, it's very important to kind of like, slow down a little bit and explain exactly what you're looking for. I talk to people who hire like an office admin, and they get frustrated in the first few weeks. It's like, this person doesn't know anything. And it's like, well, you can't just hand them like your QuickBooks and they know how to do it, right? You can't just tell them, here's the phone, and they're not going to know how to, talk about like, you build scripts for somebody who answers the phone. You kind of walk through process documents. You do that when you hire like a full-time office admin. So it makes sense that you would take a little bit of time up front and kind of explain, here's exactly what I'm looking for. Here's how I approach this. Here's maybe some templates we use, right?
And, like let's say you're going to hire a freelancer to come in and write an appellate brief for you. That's honestly one of the most common things we see people using us for is appellate briefs. And so if you're at the point that you're filing an appellate brief, you've lived a case for a long time. And so a lot of times what we see the attorneys do there is they give the freelancer maybe the docket from the trial, other key motions, key expert reports, kind of do a little bit of a document dump on them and say, hey, I need you to review all this. Let me know when you're through it. And then let's get on the phone and let's talk through the issues. Or maybe they go ahead and they outline the key issues that they see for the appeal. But of course, they also want to invite the freelancer to give their own legal opinion and perspective. That, of course, the hiring attorney has the final say on, kind of override. But we hear from our hiring attorneys all the time that the freelancers actually issue spot additional arguments they could make that the attorney had missed because they're just so deep in the case. They're in the midst of the forest and they can't see outside of the forest of other issues that could exist. So having an extra set of eyes on that type of work is really valuable.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's actually a competitive advantage a lot of times larger law firms will talk about, especially in their like marketing and trying to sell a new client is, well, we have a whole team of people. So we have other people are looking at your information, second pair of eyes, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
With Lawclerk now, anybody has that.
Anybody has that. One of my favorite examples is we have this guy from Kansas that uses us, and he does this pretty regularly. He'll go in and he'll post the exact same piece of work, we call it a project, to anywhere from maybe 2 to 3 to 5 freelance lawyers. And one of the things he does commonly that I think is so cool is he'll go in, he'll post his motion, the opposing party's opposition. He'll say, read the motion, read the opposition, tell me who wins and why, so that he can factor those arguments into his reply brief before it's due. And so he'll kind of in a way like pull the audience and go survey this group of either 2, 3. One time he did it with 5 freelancers because he didn't want to miss an issue for his client. I thought that was so cool.
That's awesome. That's it's great use of it, right? I mean, so it's almost like quality assurance. Like a lot of people do that all the time. Like software developers, right? They pay for multiple people to test things. You're almost kind of doing that in a legal setting.
Yeah, and I think he paid each freelancer like $100 to read these 2 documents. Like it wasn't a lot of money.
And what a much better representation for their client. That's awesome. That's somebody going kind of like the extra mile. I love hearing that story. That's great. So make sure. So that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to make sure somebody knows about Lawclerk that I didn't ask you?
Sure. The other thing I always want to throw out there is if you're curious about it, there's no fee to sign up. There's no monthly fee. So to be a part of the Lawclerk network costs you nothing. And I think it's great just to go ahead, register for an account, get it set up. That way you're ready to go. If you find yourself in a lurch and you're like, I really need someone to help me with this. That way you're just set up, you're ready to go. Plus, once you're in the system, you're going to be connected with a dedicated Lawclerk advisor. This is a team member of ours who's really trained in our system and the nuances of working with freelance lawyers. And they're essentially your concierge. So they're going to be there to hold your hand, guide you through the process, answer questions. Lawclerk was built by attorneys for attorneys. We have tried to make it as easy for you to use and to benefit from as we can, because we know that you're faced with a lot of stresses every day. And if you come up on even one more hurdle in the process of using our site, you're going to forget about it. So we really have streamlined the site. We've added this advisor role to be there to be your right hand through the process. And, try it out with something simple. Give it a shot. And chances are you may wish you've tried it sooner. So that's my final sales pitch, Mark.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here, Kristin. And again, that's lawclerk.legal. And we'll put a bunch of stuff in the chat or in the show notes and all that kind of good stuff, and depending on the platform. So we'll make sure we have the link to lawclerk.legal, some of the things, research studies that Kristin talked about, as well as that GNGF 2020 code. And I'm sure if you've watched this, you have like 1,000 ideas that you could be using a freelance lawyer for. So definitely reach out to Lawclerk. And if you watch some of our other marketing stuff and you hear us talk about content all the time, now you know that you could even come up with some of these content ideas we've talked about and maybe outsource some of that as well. So it doesn't even have to be specific legal work. You can help with your marketing. All right, we'll see you later.
Hey, what's up? I'm Josh. Thanks so much for joining us. If you feel like you learned something today, think of how beneficial it would be to chat with myself or another one of our marketing consultants one-on-one. Go ahead and visit our website to schedule your free consultation. It only takes a minute.